Hot topic here on Morning Kick Around for Friday, March 21st. We woke up the morning after knowing the United States men's national team wouldn't win the Nations League again this year, and the headline writers had a bit of a field day. There was plenty of press, plenty of shock. What were the headline writers saying here as we woke up this morning?
Yeah, so as somebody who has written on soccer in this country for several large outlets, would first like to say that it's possible in some of these cases the writer is not writing the headline. Headline writers can sometimes be different. Editors will sometimes write headlines. It's not always the reporter. But I did want to include a reporter's name just because I thought it was important to kind of get a sense. The vibe of this story is definitely going to be tied to the headline. This is Harry Bushnell at Yahoo Sports. U.S. men's national team flunks Mauricio Pochettino's first test, loses 1-0 to Panama in CONCACAF Nations League semifinal. A flunk of a test. It seems like the right way to frame this. It was a test.
Is this saying that the team flunks Pochettino, like Pochettino was testing the team and they lost his test?
No, I think this is saying that I would take it as Pochettino had his first test and the team, which he's included in, he's a part of, he's the leader of, flunked the test. This is a CONCACAF test that Pochettino flunked himself along with his players. Yeah?
Yeah. That's can't argue with that, really. I mean, you wouldn't say that was fine margins, especially international soccer, such fine margins. One chance goes this way and another chance goes the other way. Conversations completely differently spun. And, but yeah, 1-0 loss. Can't argue with this one.
Yeah, anybody in the chat who disagrees with any of these headlines or has thoughts on them, definitely throw them in. All right, this is what Daniel said. I thought Poch was a good choice when I first heard he got the job. Now, that's past tense. Daniel, you're using the past tense. You thought he was a good coach. Maybe you thought it at the time and you still think it, but I'd be curious to know. Have people turned on Pochettino? Like, I think it is. I think it's probably irresponsible to start yelling. I was making a joke about Fuera Pochettino, but I don't think we're there because we can't. There's not going to be a better alternative. But I said at the time, and I think people, even people who are excited about Pochettino, who has a name, and certainly the highest profile manager the U.S. men have ever had based on a coaching career, not based on a playing career, because we know Jurgen Klinsmann was a better player than Mauricio Pochettino. I said at the time, he has a learning curve. International football is not club football. And their rhythms are very different. And the ability to get what you want out of your team or to execute a plan is very different. The limited training time you have means you have to strip it down and simplify often. This is what we yelled about so much when it came to Greg Berhalter. Is he was overcomplicating the job he was doing. He was treating it like a club job when it's not that. Is Pochettino falling into the same trap, Robert? Does it feel like that?
I think he was to me, it seemed like he had a plan in mind. Then there was 3 changes to his squad available, and he kind of sewed in some patchwork replacements, and I don't know if they necessarily worked out for him. I had a feeling that without Robinson, this team was gonna struggle penetrating. Like, there wasn't too many people outside of Pulisic that could, reliably, beat a defender or make the correct run into space. And then I think maybe the loss of Cardoso, maybe he was going to rely on Cardoso being a little bit more of a reliable guy in the middle. And
no, he wasn't going to use Cardoso. He was not going to use Cardoso.
So? You think you don't think he would have been over Tessman?
No, because Cardoso doesn't give you anything going forward. So why on earth? Again, the issue here is he played. Look at the midfield. Why did he play Tessman, McKennie, and Adams? Why did he play a defensive midfielder, a holding midfielder, and a player whose best role as a midfielder is making late runs? Where is anybody to play higher up the field to play in combination with your forward line and unlock a very low block?
There's only one player like that in the pool, really, and he didn't see any action and hasn't seen much action in any capacity in a long time.
Okay. He had been playing a little bit. He had been playing enough that he was absolutely half an hour fit. We're talking about Gio Reyna. He was absolutely half an hour fit. Maybe you don't start him, but he's half an hour fit. Let's move on to headline number 2. I don't even know where this one comes from. Looks up Max Mallow. An embarrassing defeat, takeaways from U.S. men's national team, shocking CONCACAF Nations League elimination. embarrassing. Was it embarrassing, Robert? Is that what we're putting this on?
I think embarrassing is strong. I think the embarrassment part is coming from just like the perceived status of Pochettino and the men's national team at Panama. But if you say like, United States comes into a game having lost to that opponent twice in a row, I don't think this one is fair. I think they were shocked and probably embarrassed that it happened, but I don't think the performance all the way around is embarrassing.
This is Nicholas Murray, who's correctly pointing out that this is from Sports Illustrated. Thank you, Nicholas. You did remind me that is a Sports Illustrated headline from their coverage of this.
So Max Malo, is that a real person or AI? I think they do that.
Good question. A good question. I don't have the answer to that. I do not know. Obviously,
sorry, Max, if you're real.
Sports Illustrated is not what it used to be, but it is certainly a name in sports coverage, and this headline popped up when you go looking for information on the U.S. men's national team. Whether or not it's embarrassing, yeah, I think you're right. I think we've seen this too many times for this to be embarrassing now.
Yeah.
Like you were embarrassed the first time it happens, or you're embarrassed if all of the talk is that you are absolutely going to win this game and there's no chance you lose it. That's embarrassing. But I think we all knew that Panama was dangerous and that there was a chance here that they would be able to frustrate the United States. And they did that, right?
They played well defensively every time, just about, except for that Ajaman one-on-one. It seemed like whenever there was an American player trying to get in behind or just edge around somebody, Panama was up to the challenge defensively.
Absolutely. And again, I think sometimes it is awfully reductive to go, it's about the mentality. Like I said, is this all about the grit and the determination, the quotes we saw from Pochettino earlier about, you don't win just because you wear the U.S. shirt. I don't know. Maybe that is a problem mentally for this team. Maybe it is. But whether or not the United States showed up with the right mentality, Panama showed up with the right mentality, right? Panama came, and you look at this Panamanian team, and as we talked about earlier, people might say the U.S. was more up for it when their players had more to prove, when they weren't playing in top leagues in Europe. You look at the Panamanian team. How many Premier League players are in the Panamanian team?
Not many.
None? There's a Norwich player, a guy who plays with Josh Sargent at Norwich. I believe he's the first Panamanian to play in the English Championship, is what I heard last night in the broadcast.
Oh, well done.
Right? So their team is made up of the guys we used to have. The guys that feel like they have to prove something. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's why for them, and again, you when you're the United States of America, no matter what sport you're playing, no matter what you're doing, people are aiming for you. That's just the status of being America and wearing that flag on your shirt. And if you don't match it, you will get beaten. Right? You don't match it, you will get beaten. All right, let's move on. Here's another one. This is from, I believe this one is from the Daily Mail, which, lets you decide whether that's a valuable one. USMNT humiliated by Panama in front of a near-empty SoFi Stadium 14 months before they host the World Cup.
That's the embarrassing part. Is playing in a giant cavernous stadium that half full, perhaps, and you're basically the opening act for Mexico within your own country. I know you said that that's happened before.
No, that's life. That's the United States. Look, it's not. I know there were so many snarky posts last night when I was second screening and watching the game and looking at social media, and it is our base nature as U.S. men's national team viewers to watch a game unfold in a distressing way and take shots at our own team. Right? It's the gallows humor thing. Well, we have to make fun of ourselves so that when the other people do it, it doesn't hurt as bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's what we do. But it is absolutely a fact that the United States of America has the second most popular men's national team in the country. And it's a big gap. It's a big gap. And it's always been true.
I know it's true, but that is the more embarrassing part, just in general.
I'm not embarrassed by that. I'm not, because again, go back to the same thing I said about losing to Panama. Happened so many times before. How could I possibly be embarrassed by it anymore? Right? Like I want it to be better. I desperately want. I mean, I started doing podcasts on American soccer and the U.S. men's national team 13 years ago or whatever it was. And we were talking about it then.
Yeah.
We were talking about it then. The U.S. plays U.S. plays Mexico, and half, 60%, 80%, 90% of the crowd is there to root for Mexico. And there were moments when it was slightly different. And, of course, U.S. Soccer used to do what they could to make sure of a game, like a game in Columbus in a qualifier, that it was more American fans or more U.S. men's national team fans than Mexico fans. But if it's something like this and U.S. Soccer's not in charge and it's in a place like Los Angeles, man, it's just not going to happen. The U.S. men's national team. And look, I do think it's important to think of the reasons why that stuff happens, right? For a lot of the Mexican diaspora, for a lot of Mexican Americans, supporting the Mexican national team is a tie to their heritage, to their country, right? To the place that their grandparents came from or their parents came from or whatever, right? And I think that's a really hard bond to break. And they show up because in Mexico, the number one sport is football. It's soccer. In the United States of America, a country of immigrants, with this, we don't. Soccer's not. It's not the number one sport. It's not the number one sport by a big distance. We don't have, outside of like momentary sort of skipping across a pond kind of things, like the hockey team in 1980. We don't think of team sports, big time team sports, as international expressions of our country. Like the dream team was a thing that was more about, hey, our best players don't even play Olympic basketball. Imagine if they did. And then they did. And then we got over that pretty quick. Right. And then a lot of the world caught up or got better. And we're like, okay, well, you know what? It wasn't that important to begin with. Who really cares if the NBA players lose in the Olympics? Like, whatever now. Like, there's not this throbbing. People criticize those players when they lose, but it's more about the embarrassment than it is about, like, it matters to us culturally. Mm-hmm. The U.S. men's national team as a whole for America does not matter at all like the Mexican national team matters to that country and to the people of Mexican heritage in the United States. So I'm not embarrassed by it. It just stinks. It just stinks. And maybe if the United States made a deep run at the World Cup next year or something like that, or proved that they could compete at the highest level on a regular basis, it would be different. But it's not.
We shall see, what the fallout for this is. Do we have any more headlines here? There we go. With 2026 World Cup 15 months away, USA blows perfect opportunity to build momentum. Do you think that this was the make or breaker?
No, I mean, I don't know if it's the make or break moment, but it is. They did waste an opportunity to build momentum, to capture attention. If you look, we know based on the results of the second game that they would have faced Mexico again in the final, and that they might have been, Mexico again in the final. But imagine they beat Panama and then they go and play Mexico and they beat Mexico, right? Obviously, we know they're probably not good enough to do that right now. But if they had, it's not like it explodes in March Madness is happening right now. There are other things going on and capturing people's attention, but it would have been a chance to actually like make a positive headline ahead of the World Cup.
Yeah, instead of these, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then this is Jeff Carlisle. This is ESPN. That one was Fox Sports, by the way. This is ESPN. Jeff Carlisle. Tepid U.S. men's national team falls to Panama in worst game under Pochettino, which it absolutely was that. I think it was absolutely that.
It's kind of just seeing what Europe's doing with World Cup qualifiers and us toiling in Nations League stuff. I kind of miss the old, qualification process. That whole like multi-year journey of getting the national team back to the World Cup in 2022 was a pretty engaging and thrilling experience, and one I kind of wish we could experience again. I feel like Pochettino and these players would really be put to the test to a whole different spectrum as they are now.
Yeah, that's the catch-22 of being a host, is you get an automatic bid, but you don't get to test yourself on the road. And obviously there would always be a chance of missing out. With 48 teams, it was nearly impossible the United States would miss out on a World Cup, and this isn't like 2018. So it would have been at least interesting to see this team have to face those challenges, going down to Central America the way the Berhalter's teams did and struggled. They struggled down there. I mean, it wasn't great. They lost to Panama for the first time, I think, in World Cup qualifying history. And then they had the game against Honduras where Berhalter had to make a bunch of halftime changes in order to pull that one out. So, and again, it feels as though Pochettino maybe didn't appreciate the challenge or needed the experience to learn what this is. And hopefully this is a wake-up call.
We shall see. Can the USA secure third place in the Nations League? Find out Saturday at 6 when the United States take on Canada. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. Morning Kick Around on the YouTube. Follow along on social media. Kick Around on X, Instagram, Blue Sky. And if you have some money for a coffee, coffee.com/morningkickaround. And there's even bonus segment over there for you too if you donate a little bit of money.